Hey, what's up, everybody? I sent out an email earlier to MMT Trader subscribers, but I'm going to talk about what was in that email because, Janet Yellen's comments yesterday really got me thinking. I mean, when she was talking about they don't have to raise rates much anymore because we're getting to a neutral policy rate. Janet Yellen does not know what she is talking about. All right, first of all, there's really no such thing as a neutral policy rate. This is this kind of gobbledygook from neoclassical economics. The only real neutral policy rate for a government that is a net payer of interest, for a government that pays interest, and where it has a free-floating currency and where all of its debts are denominated in that currency, the only real neutral rate is zero. At the zero rate, that's where it does not add any net income and it does not take away any net income. To say, some arbitrary number that the Fed just pulls out of the air, I don't know what that is, 1.25%, 2%, 5%, 50%, who the hell knows? That's just complete idiocy. The only neutral rate is zero. That's the rate at which no net income is added or no net income is taken away. Now, she doesn't know what she's talking about. But the bigger issue here is like they're just pulling some arbitrary number and saying, okay, we're going to stop there. So, and I don't know if they're going to stop. I found her comments to be very hard to understand, very clouded the whole entire perspective for me, I have to tell you. Because a lot of what I've been doing for the past year and a half has been based on monetary policy and a rising rate environment. I've been talking about that. All of you who have been following me for a long time, since that time, know I keep saying that, rising rates are inflationary. It's a net fiscal expansion. If that stops, you could still have fiscal expansion from the government spending more money, and that is happening. By the way, the flows are increasing. They're not going gangbusters, but they have been increasing, and they have picked up a little bit in July because we saw a rebound in Medicaid. Medicaid was really, really decelerating, but suddenly, all of a sudden, it shot way back up again. So whatever was going on in Medicaid seems to have been alleviated or it stopped, whatever was slowing those payments down. So we have a pickup in July, which totally explains the stock market rally to me. If the flows continue to pick up, the stock market is I guess, going to go higher. But now in the second portion of Yellen's comments where they were talking about the Fed now reducing the size of its balance sheet starting in the fall, I don't know what number they're talking about. Somebody told me it'll start off at $10 billion a month. I mean, $10 billion is nothing. You're looking at over $4 trillion plus balance sheet. And by the way, historically, for years and years and years, the Fed's balance sheet was like $800 billion. It was only in the financial crisis when they started doing all these asset purchases that they ran it up to over $4 trillion. All right, so 10 billion a month is nothing, man. In a year, 120 billion, that's nothing compared to 4 trillion. So I don't know where this leaves us, to be honest with you. I mean, if the Fed is stopping based on something it has in its mind, some artificial number that it just arbitrarily picked out of the air, that's in its mind that, oh yeah, we're here now. I mean, this is really, really bad leadership. I mean, if you want to pick a number, if they want to pick a number, then pick zero, because that's what the rate should be. There's no reason why a sovereign currency issuer that spends in its own money, where it has the monopoly power to issue that money, there's no reason it should be paying any rate at all. That's that's like welfare to people who own treasuries. No reason. You could be spending that money on healthcare. You could be spending that money on infrastructure. You could be spending that money on basic science and research. You could be spending that on education. You could spend it on anything. It's ridiculous. The only reason we have treasury sale, well, I should say the only reason we had treasury sales in the past was to function as a reserve drain. You don't even need that anymore because now the Fed pays interest directly So they don't even need to manage reserves like they used to. In fact, Yellen even said that. That at least she knows. One thing that she knows. So I don't know. I'm kind of like up in the air on this whole thing. I don't know what she's talking about, but it seems like these guys they've picked some number and they're close to it and they're going to stop. And really the next thing we got to focus on is the reduction in the size of the Fed's balance sheet, which to me looks like it's going to start off so incrementally tiny that basically what we're looking at here is an environment where the whole rise in the price level based on rising interest rates, that has just stopped. That has just stopped. That has implications for everything. It has implications for the dollar. It has implications for commodities. It has implications for gold. It has implications for everything. Not that people understand this yet, but it has implications. The only thing I can maybe hold out there is that it has implications for bonds too. The only thing I could say is that how so many people misunderstand, just like they misunderstood the asset purchases and they thought that was inflationary and everything like that, which it wasn't. The treasury sales, the zombies might react in the same highly emotional way, but in the opposite direction. But it's interesting because even when she announced that they were going to be, bringing down their balance sheet, there really wasn't much of a reaction other than, I guess you saw some reaction in, well, you didn't see it in bonds, which rallied, but you saw some reaction in the dollar. You saw that crazy run up in the Canadian dollar, that was a move. That 25 basis point rate hike was so telegraphed. And you had a violent move, which is still kind of continuing. I mean, it really hasn't rebounded much or come back off much at all. So, things might have changed. I'm going to give it a little bit more time, but that was a crazy talk from a crazy woman. I mean, a woman who really doesn't understand. I've been, saying this about Yellen for a long time. There's no such thing as an artificial rate. Actually, the only artificial rate is zero. I mean, not artificial. I'm sorry. There's no such thing as a neutral rate. The only neutral rate is zero. She doesn't understand this. The people on the Fed don't understand this. I always say we gotta sit around and wait till the policymakers tell us what they're going to do. But a lot of times they tell us they're going to do things that don't make any sense, or they just pull out of thin air. So anyway, that's what I'm looking at right now. Things may have changed. I got to make an assessment here. Bye.